Hello everybody. Today I am going to be throwing a cylinder for you and doing a demo for how to do that. The main thing I want you to do is think about the difference between throwing a cylinder and throwing a bowl and how you might use one to do certain forms and one to do another form. So without further ado, here we go. Okay, I have my clay all wedged and all centered and pretty stuck to the wheel head. I've been doing some throwing, so I had a little clay left on my wheel. That's fine, it's actually going to help it stick, so I'm stoked on that. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on my cylinder demo here. So I'm going to go ahead and get my hands wet, get my clay wet, and make sure I'm just pressing down with my hand and in with my other hand. So I've got my left hand pushing in, my right hand pushing down. And I'm just going to keep getting a little bit of water on there so it's not getting stuck. And pressing in with a pretty good amount of pressure from the side and down from the top with equal pressure. Alright, sweet. I've got it attached. I've got a pretty good start here. I do feel like I need to do some coning here to get those last little impurities out. I also feel like I have a bump right on my wheel head here, so I'm going to get that off. Okay, so coning. I'm pressing in from one side here, pressing from this side here, and pushing my clay up to a cone. And as it starts coming up, I start bringing my hands up and coning up. So I'll show you that once again. So I've got hand here, pressing in. As soon as I feel like my clay is pushing in, I start bringing my hands up the clay all the way to the top with about the same amount of pressure, maybe lightening up my pressure a little bit as I go. And then once I've got it up like that, I'm going to just press it off here and push it down here. Nice, that really seemed to help this a lot. That feels so much more centered now. Okay, so a cylinder. I'm going for height with this. So one thing I can think about is actually bringing this up a little bit. So I'm going to just start my coning, but I'm going to stop before it comes up too far and then go to centering. So that's just going to make it so my clay is taller to start with. Since I want to go for height, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm just going to press in from the side a little bit more, then from the top, and just bring that up and make it a little bit taller. Okay, that's feeling pretty good. Once again, I've got some stuff on the wheel head here that's just scratching my hand, so I'm going to take that off real fast. And then I can start to think about opening. So this is one of the major differences between bowls and cylinders. So with a bowl, you're kind of going in at an angle or at a diagonal. With a cylinder, you're going straight in like that. So I can use a thumb and just make sure I've got my hand over the top of my other hand and I can press in that way. I could use a finger and press in, or like two fingers and press in here. I just want to make sure I'm going straight in. I like to use my thumb, and sometimes what I'll start with is just coming from the outside into the middle until I find that sweet center spot. Then I know I'm not off center right away. So then I'm going to just press straight into the middle and go all the way down. Well, I guess not all the way down. I want to have a base to my pot, so I want to stop before I hit the bottom of my pot. And then after that, I'm going to get a little water because it kind of sticks. Clay kind of sticks on my finger. So after I've got that right to the depth that I want, I can start bringing it out and opening it further and widening out my opening. So I'll show you what I'm doing with my hand from outside here. So I'm doing this, and that is opening this space up on the inside. Potters talk a lot about the space within. That's what they're talking about. You not only have the space that a piece of pottery takes up on the outside, but you also have that space within a piece of pottery that you have to think about. So I'm going to do this one more time, starting from the center and bringing my clay out from the middle to flatten the base of my pottery, and also to just compress the clay at the bottom. It's really good practice to compress the base of your pottery. Otherwise you get those like little hairline cracks in the base of your pottery, and that can be very frustrating. All right, and then the last thing I'm going to do before I do my pulls is just flatten out my lip. It's just really good practice as well to flatten out the top every time. All right, cool. So I'm going to make sure that my clay is wet on both sides, both inside and outside. And I'm going to start with what is called a knuckle pull. So with this hand, I'm going to bend it in and use a knuckle here and finger on the inside. So essentially I'm doing this. Okay, so I'm going to push in from both sides to the clay, push in, and start bringing it up the side. Really thinking about steady as she goes, even speed and pressure. And I'm going to stop before I get to the top and release. That way I don't get like a chunk out of the top. And okay, I'm also going to bring this in. This is called collaring. So what I'm doing is I'm just taking both hands and cupping it around here and just bringing it in. That just helps your pottery from going out too far, too fast. One of the big things that happens is centrifugal force with pottery. So every time you spin something and it goes around, it's going to want to go out, and that is the centrifugal force. All right, I'm going to just wet my clay a little bit, and I'm going to do one more knuckle pull, and then I'm going to go ahead and switch over to some finger pulls, but I'm pushing from both sides here, just really getting under the clay and bringing it up the side. Even speed and pressure all the way up. And once again, right about the top here, I'm going to release and let that lip stay happy. Okay, and once again, I'm going to do some serious coloring because you can see it's really flared out. So I want to bring that back in. Okay, so I've got some pretty good height here, but I still have a little bit of clay right down at the base. So I still can do some pulls and bring it up and make it a little bit taller. So already you can see a major difference in bowls versus cylinders. I've really just got a straight wall to my pot. I like to think of making a soup can shape to start with. With cylinders, I can always go back and shape it, but if I have a really straight shape to start with, it makes it so much easier. So one thing I have to think about now, it's getting pretty tall, is I have to put my hand all the way in like this and sort of lift my elbow up. And then I'm going to be able to get under the clay from both sides again and push out and bring it up. Nice. All right, cool. I think I'll do one more pull. This time I'm going to use a sponge because it's starting to get a little bit thin. I want a little softer touch. So instead of my finger on the outside, I'm going to use a sponge. And that'll also just help me clean up a little bit of that extra clay. There we go. Okay. I think I've got a pretty good amount of clay pulled up. I also have this huge puddle of water in the middle, so I'm going to take my sponge and into the center and soak that up. And now what I can do is use my rib tool here to really just smooth out the even consistency of my walls. So I'm going to get that wet, make sure it's really soaked up with water, and I'm going to make sure I have it working with my clay instead of against my clay. And I'm going to hold this on the outside instead of my hand. But I'm still going to have the inside hand on the middle. And I'm going to be pushing out to meet my clay with my rib from the inside. And then I'm going to be pulling both up the side here. You can see that just really smooths out my wall. It also compresses my clay. Really makes it nice and smooth. So from here, I can really just start making it into a beautiful form. So I'm going to keep using my rib, and I'm going to keep using my hand on the inside, pressing my clay out to meet my rib, and start to think about where I want my clay to go out. And if I want it to go in, I might flip my rib around and where I want it to go in. So I can really start to get that form, just really shaping it in a beautiful way. I can also start to think about like what kind of rim I want. So I've been really enjoying that like throwing ridged look lately. So I might put some of those throwing ridges in. But before I do that, I've got just a little extra clay down here. So I'm going to trim that off. So I'm going to hold this just like a pencil, about 1/4 of an inch up. And just take this all the way down and just trim that off. That's just less I have to trim later. And it gives me just that little lift to the base of my pottery. And then I can just cut through it and take it off. I love the way that looks. So satisfying right there. All right. Okay. So like I said, I like those throwing ridges. So what those throwing ridges are is just a little bit quicker pull. That's just going to give it a little different look to the outside of my pot. And so I'm going to start from the bottom again, but I'm going to do this really quickly. All the way up. Nice. That just gives it a little different look. I like it. I don't know. If you like it, you should give it a try sometime. I think I might do that one more time with the throwing ridges to get a little bit more there. I like it, but I think I could go a little deeper. So I'm going to start once again right at the bottom and bring it out and up pretty quickly. Nice. Yeah, I like that. I'm going to just shape the top of my lip, make it something a little bit interesting, and call it quits. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and cut this guy off. So I'm going to get some water, if I can find my sponge. Okay, get some water on my wheel, find my cutting tool, and just pull that water underneath. Nice. So just pulling it tight and pulling it under one more time. Now I know for sure that it's coming off. If you have your tool that gets stuck, just hold a finger there and just pull it off that way. You can slide it off onto your hand and put it over on your board. Okay, well, thank you for watching my cylinder demo. So I just want you to be thinking about what the differences are between throwing a bowl form and throwing a cylinder form. Okay, thanks. Bye.